readers,
reviewers,
countrymen,
lend us your ears.
Hello and welcome to the channel. We are the brothers Gwynne, Will and Ed, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today as we will be talking about what books we read in July and what else we got up to, because we got up to quite a few different things, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like interviewing a few authors, playing games, watching TV, the usual.
Yeah, quite a wide mix. We had some awesome interviews this week. Thank you to the Broken Binding for organising them. You can go check them out. They're on the channel. So we interviewed early in the month Peter McLean, author of The War for the Rose Throne.
The recent release of Priest of Gallows, which is out on the Broken Binding.
Which we will be talking about in this video as well.
We shall be. But that was great fun. That's a really good interview. Peter McLean seems like an excellent chap, and it was really good fun to talk to him.
He does.
And we also then spoke to Christian Cameron,
the one, the only.
On the only Miles / Christian Cameron.
Author of fantasy, historical fiction,
spy novels, and now sci-fi. So
is
yeah,
there anything he can't do?
He writes a little bit. Maybe he'll go into romance next.
He's not very prolific, isn't he? He only writes 3 books a year.
I know, it's not that many really, is it? I mean, I think I prefer George R. Martin's route of not releasing books.
Virgin and controversial.
Yeah.
But then they were awesome interviews. Thank you to the authors for agreeing to come onto the channel, and thanks again to the Broken Binding, an awesome bookstore. Bookstore, I was thinking online version. Bookstore. There's a link to them in the description below if you want to check that out. And we also have some exciting news that we've launched a Patreon, which has some benefits if you want to go check that out. We've got different levels. You'll be entered into a monthly giveaway and a variety of other things if you want to check that out. Basically, obviously, there's no need to do it at all, but if you would do that, obviously we'd be very happy. The money would be going towards buying a camera. We're still using your phone, aren't we?
Yes, it would all go into the channel, but you know, we're loving this community, guys. Thank you very much for watching all of our videos. It's so much fun. We love chatting to everyone as well, and we're really enjoying our discussions as well with other YouTubers, other booktubers, which is so much fun. But yeah, we do have a Patreon. It's in the description below. Check it out if you feel free, but it's up to you. No pressure whatsoever at all.
And now let's talk books. So let's just give a summary. So I read 11 books this month. This was actually my best reading month since October 2018.
Wow. Not that you had that prepared.
Oh, not that I looked at it before. I may be obsessed with the Goodreads charts.
Yeah.
So I read 11 books and 4,229 pages.
Very nice, Will. And I read 8 books, I believe, and it is, I don't know off the top of my head, 3,865 pages. So
we had a good month, didn't we?
Yeah, very good. So now, hopefully this month will be even better.
Lofty heights indeed. But okay, we have a lot of books to get through, so let's start.
We do.
What was your first read of the month, Ed?
The first one for me was Killer of Men, which I was nearly finished at the end of last month, but now I finished it. And if you've seen our book rankings of the year so far, you'll know that this book is actually my favourite of the year so far. No recency bias. It's told of it's all about Aramnestos, who was a warrior in ancient Greece from Plataea. Aramnestos of Plataea, not Athens. Don't know who said that.
Who would ever say that?
Fool. But yeah, so I love ancient Greek history. I haven't really read too much about it, but this was kind of my first endeavour into Christian Cameron's cycle of the ancient Greek series, and this is called the Long War series, all about Aramnestos, and I love how it's in first person. Love how it's told about. It's just about Aramnestos' life. He's a character that you really very quickly get attached to, especially as you know him as being a child, and then you know him as he's growing up and becomes a young man and a warrior, and just following his journey is breathtaking. There are amazing battles, things that are so exhilarating to read, and things that I feel very passionate about now. That the level of immersion in these books is unsurpassed in my opinion. Christian Cameron always manages to create a sense of romanticism, but also a sense of the authentic grit and the amazing characters that were real, and some that have been added by Christian Cameron. So yeah, I'd really recommend this if you like ancient Greek history, if you like reading books about characters who are strong, characters similar to Uhtred of Bebbanburg. That's who Aramnestos reminds me of, but he's a little bit more ruthless, I think. But yeah, it's amazing. I love it. Go check it out.
Well, Christian Cameron is called the king of immersion, isn't he?
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to reading Killer of Men soon. Now going on to the fantasy genre. We mentioned Peter McLean earlier. This month I listened on Audible. to Priest of Gallows, the third instalment of War for the Rose Throne. This was more political than the previous 2 instalments, but every bit as engaging. We followed Thomas Piety as he travels more to the capital rather than his home city of Ellensburg. And it was really interesting talking to Peter McLean about his inspirations and about the direction he's taking it in. And he said that he's always had the final scene of the last book in mind. And
that's scary.
Yeah, I'm a bit scared what will happen. And this is going to be the first time...
Because you don't think, I've got the happiest scene, and I'm going to write it in 5 years. You know, I know that's how my series going to end, with the happiest scene.
We saw how he said it.
Death aplenty.
But for now, there's still no hope because of the way this ends. But this is going to be the first time I have to wait for the next instalment to come out. So it's going to be a long, hard wait, but I'm sure it'll be worth it. I think the last one's going to be called Priest of Crowns, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And that will be coming out in 2022. So first 3 instalments were all really brilliant, and it's come up to be one of my favourite series up to date now. And there you go. It's basically Peaky Blinders in a medieval setting with a low fantasy urban tone and vibe. And yeah, it was awesome.
Dark vibes.
Dark
only
vibes.
around here. And my next read was David Gemmell's Sword in the Storm. Now, David Gemmell is an author that I haven't actually read too much of. I've only read Legend by him before now. I know, Wicked Child. But I love David Gemmell's writing, and I was just really excited to start this because this is Dad's favourite series of David Gemmell's. And I could see immediately when I started reading this the influence that David Gemmell has had on Dad's Faithful and Fallen series. So you've got the Celtic vibes, you've got the Roman versus the Celtics. It feels like Caesar's Gallic Wars. So I love that historical influence. You know, I love to read historical fiction, and we do reenactment as well. So seeing the historical influences seeping within the world building and the characters, such as from their names to the way they speak to the technology used and the mythology behind their religions and whatnot, it just felt amazing to read. And this book is about Conovar. Conovar is a young man, and it's a story of his life, how he grows up and becomes a warrior of the Brigante, think Brigante. So he's in a Celtic tribe, and he sets out to defend his Celtic home from the oncoming waves of armies and armies and armies that are coming onto or near their land, and
that are inspired by the Roman.
They're called the Stone.
They're Stone. They're just called Stone.
The armies of Stone. That's it.
Yeah.
So they're basically the Roman forces. They fight in shield walls. They use gladiuses. They have different technology, and I adored this because Conovar is an excellent character. There are moments where I was really emotional in here. There are moments where actually there was a disabled character in here that Conovar kind of, you know, he goes to look after him, and I love the relationship that grew between them two. And you don't really see too many disabilities within fantasy, and I thought it was just used so well. David Gemmell is an amazing writer, and I will be carrying on this series 100%.
With Midnight Falcon during August.
That will be during August. It really will.
And my next read, we said that Peter McLean series was dark, and it is, but now I go on to what is known as the King of Dark.
Yeah.
Lord Grimdark himself, Joe Abercrombie. I dived and delved and burrowed for the first time into the first Law series with the Blade itself.
Couldn't find him for a week. He was underground the whole time.
I hide a lot. With books, obviously. The Blade itself is the first instalment of the original First Lord trilogy. They call Joe Abercrombie the king of characters, and for good reason. I actually felt a bit nervous going, maybe not nervous, but a bit.
I don't usually get nervous, but I'm starting to get a little bit shaky, you know what I mean?
Well, I did going into this because of the amount of hype that there was.
Yeah.
But it really lived up to it, and I love these characters so much. They have such big fatal flaws, but still they're so sympathetic at the same time, and they feel so real, and you have to love them, don't you? And so the Blade itself actually took top spot for my favourite read of the year until my next read, which was Before They're Hanged, which is the sequel, the second instalment to the original First Law trilogy. Before They're Hanged took everything that was great about the Blade itself and then took it further.
Just amplified it, didn't it?
Exactly, and made plot more of a key driving force as well. The dynamic of some of the characters interacting here was sublime. One of the best reading experiences I have ever had, and we've got a review of Before They're Hanged coming out soon, as we've already had a review of the Blade itself come out in July. We'll have this coming out in about a week.
Yeah, so they are spoiler-free reviews because we think that's what people will enjoy the most. But we will be doing a spoiler talk discussion when William has finished The Last Argument of Kings. with the Friends Talking Fantasy podcast. They will be coming onto our channel and doing a nice spoiler talk with us, which will be so much fun.
We're really looking forward to that, and they've got loads of great thoughts that I've heard in their podcast.
Yes, yeah,
So,
really good. Yeah,
be great to
Dylan,
steal
Dylan
some
and
of
Charles
those.
are great fun. They're good to hang out with, but also they've got some amazing thoughts about the First Law. I know they're big fans, so we cannot wait to discuss that with them. So the next book I read was Neil Price's The Children of Ash and Elm.
You loved this, didn't you?
I really loved this. I actually listened to this on Audible, and I'm finding I'm really enjoying listening to non-fiction on Audible, actually. I find it... I feels a little bit more immersive. You're listening to the words, you know, and then having the physical book that I can flick through as well, you know, look through maps, look through the pictures they reference to as well. It's really enjoyable to me anyway. Firstly, I will play Total War a lot. So while I play Total War, I might listen to an audiobook. And sometimes I like to choose something that's kind of set in that period as well. So if I'm playing...
That's got a relationship
Yeah,
with
exactly.
what
You
you're
know,
doing.
if you play Total War Attila and you're the Jutes or the Danes or anything like that, or the Sphere, then you can listen to this and you'll feel like, you know, you're listening to that time
Transport
period
as well, yeah.
Exactly. So Neil Price is a university lecturer at Uppsala Museum in Sweden. So it's a leading university in Viking archaeological studies. And The Children of Ash and Elm is kind of a general history of the Vikings, how they began, the glory period of Vikings, as it were, and then the ending. Okay, and I loved it. I think Neil Price's writing is very accessible. It's really good. I would definitely recommend this as an entry level. I always liked Neil Oliver's book about the Vikings, but I think this pips him to the post because this is lots of people called Neil writing about the Vikings. But yeah,
Maybe if you have your name Neil, you just have to
you
do
are a
that.
Viking, absolutely. So yeah, but it's a really nice history. It has really nice. I like Neil Price's opinions. It's all backed up by essays and, you know, actual experimental archaeology, which I really like. That he's founded his opinions in his experiences of looking at the artifacts, handling them, lecturing as well. So he's a leading voice at the moment in Viking studies. So if you want to go read a book about Vikings, if you like Vikings or The Last Kingdom, or if you like Shadow of the Gods, that kind of thing, you can see lots of influences there with the mythology, the characters, the Eddas, that kind of stuff.
Well, there we go. If you're
There we go
interested in
then.
some non-fiction, that's where you should go.
Yeah.
And my next read was literary fiction / historical fiction, and well, July was a really great reading month, and this was another amazing book. This is the most recent winner of the Booker Prize, and it is a enlightening, disturbing, fascinating story that tells like an intimate tale of like the dehumanizing effects of war, and it's set during World War One, and it's a very small scale story about someone who loses a friend during that conflict and what it does to him. And well, as I said, this is disturbing, and it's a book that is really going to stay with me, but it's completely worth reading it. It was fantastic. It's quite a small book, but the impact it had for that size is, I think, is astounding. The impact it had, how it got so much across while still being very subtle. It wasn't very in your face, and I thought that it was masterful. And also, this was originally written in French, so I think I don't know who the translator was, but it was a brilliant translation nevertheless. And I think that this is something that everyone really should give a go. There you go.
Okay, very nice.
There you go.
I'm looking forward to reading it, Will. And the next book I read, I forgot it, this month, was Joe Abercrombie's The Heroes.
There's a theme with us, isn't there?
Yeah,
these
there
last
is.
few months?
We're Joe Abercrombie fangirls now, I reckon. Yeah, this is a First Law channel only now, I'm afraid. So yeah, that's the way we're going, isn't it?
Yeah.
So The Heroes is my favourite by far. Joe Abercrombie standalone. They're all excellent, but The Heroes just gets me. And I get it. I understand it. Okay. I adore it, but mainly because of Bremer Dan Gorst is my favourite First
He's
Law
your
character.
favourite character.
Yeah, I know. I love Logan. You know, don't get me wrong. Every Joe Abercrombie character is genius, but Gorst's his internal monologues about war and his high-pitched voice and his deeds on the battlefield, everything mixed into one, a whole mixing pot, balls together, and he is my favourite character, I think. And it's so much fun. The Heroes is inspired by, I think, the film A Bridge Too Far, which is a film telling the story of the British advancement
on the Bridge of Honour.
on the bridge. That's the one. So William knows about all the history of that in World War II, I believe. Was it World War
Yeah,
II?
yeah, definitely.
So here we have a battle basically being told from both sides of the fighting, to the two different factions. It's set over 3 days, and you've got multi POVs set in both camps, and it's amazing to see the level of battle tactics used. I know Joe Abercrombie loves to read non-fiction about campaigns and battles and wars and that kind of stuff, so you can see that he's really got an eye for it. I feel like he must play Total War a lot, because
didn't he say that he actually bans himself? Because,
I think he did, actually,
because he said that any game you can lose a day or two and it's fine, but Total War you will lose hundreds of hours.
And then it's like, oh, I'm going to be another faction now.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah, the level of detail and the meticulous planning that must have been involved is amazing, and also the characters are genius. I read multi POV stories to see how they all link to each other, and the relationships here are as amazing as in the first lore. I love the characters, I love all of the battles, so I'm very action orientated in the books I like to read, as well as the character development, and I love how the action here furthers the character development rather than they're just thrust into it and
just to fill a gap.
It's exactly, and it feels very cinematic, all of the scenes here. So I'd really recommend the Heroes. If you want to try out Joe Abercrombie, go to the first lore, go read the Blade itself, but then go to the standalones, read it in order, because they're genius in my opinion. I love them.
Well, there we go, and I'll be reading that during August. Really looking forward to it. I need to listen to it on Audible to hear Stephen Pacey's
Stephen Pacey's, Gorst's
narration.
Voice is just genius, so funny.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, but for now, another fantasy read that I devoured this month is Master of Sorrows by Justin Travis Cole.
You've got to stop eating books, Will.
No, I'm sorry, I just can't stop myself. But that's one. I'll probably do it again next month. I think that Master of Sorrows it's a really great first instalment to the Silent Gods, I believe the series is called, and it's an instalment that really hooks you. I think the beginning, it was really engaging first chapter, then it took a while for me to warm to it, and then it really hit its stride, and I thought it was really just fantastic once it did hit that, and it did not drop off. I think he really comes into his own about a third of the way into the story, and the characters really become interesting, and there's a mystery added, and it's very tense. I'll tell you that. And I listened to it on Audible, and there was a lot of tension, and I was like, well, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? But you did have moments to regain yourself, but you always understood the characters' feelings, and I thought it was just a really good first installment, and I'm looking forward to continuing with the rest of the series.
Very nice, Will. And the next book I read was one I've been waiting about 2 years for, actually, and it is Hawkwood's Sword by Christian Cameron. I loved this book.
Obsessed?
Maybe. This series, the Chivalry series, starting with the Ill-Made Knight, it tells the story of William Gold, set in the 14th century. He's from England, and he's thrust into the 100-Year War between England and France. So it's a fascinating piece of history there. It's a brutal period, but it's also amazing to read about. I really enjoy reading and listening to the history around there. So William Gold's an amazing character. He's one of my favourites whatsoever. And Hawkwood's Sword has emotional moments that the other books in the series haven't quite reached, because it's just heartbreaking what happens in this book. It really is, and it is and the payoff is so good because of the relationships that Christian Cameron has built over the last 4 books, and this is number 5 in the series, and all of those emotions come flooding out when these things start to happen to characters that you absolutely love. I think there is one more book left in the series that Christian Cameron's writing, which is called Captain of Venice, I believe.
Only one more?
Only one more. So it's nearly at the end, but I adore this. I adore the world. This kind of opened my eyes and made me love the medieval period, this series. And now I'm a medieval reenactor, so it shows how much I enjoyed it and how much passion it inspired within me. So I'd love to talk more about the medieval series on the channel, and Christian Cameron's influences behind this as well. He does mention lots and lots of chivalry talk in our interview with him, so go check that out if you want to hear a little bit about that behind the scenes, the way Christian Cameron writes.
And now I'm going to talk a bit more about Christian Cameron, because this month I read his most recent release. Artifact Space and Hawkwood's Sword both released for the month of each other. He's a very busy writer, isn't he?
He's very busy.
But Artifact Space, which is his first endeavour into the science fiction genre. Recently we've been reading a bit more science fiction, and I'm not
Red Rising, and I've read Dune, and now this. Have you read Dune yet?
No, I haven't. But Children of Time I've read.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's quite a few more that I've read this month that I'll
That's
talk
like
about in a minute.
arachnophobia.
Times 10. But even though I'm not the most well versed in the genre, I would be very confident in saying that Artifact Space is something completely unique and different. It's a space opera, but a very different, intimate take.
It's not a space, the soap opera.
I said soap opera last time. I will not make that mistake again. I probably will now.
Yeah.
But this is a great space opera and one that really focuses on the characters. That really, this is one of the best books I've ever read, which explores characterization, character growth, and the psychological effects of the past and how that molds into your decisions in the present without really realizing it. And it was really quite actually wonderful to really read that in a character in Barrow. Who is our central protagonist, and I thought that Christian Cameron really just showed that. I think if you're an aspiring writer, I think that this is one of the books you should read to really look into how to form characters and for them to grow. And
the relationships are just top, aren't they?
Really fantastic, and that was a really standout point in Artifact Space for me. So if you like science fiction, even if you don't enjoy science fiction, this is something completely different. So maybe go out of your comfort zone a bit and try Artifact Space.
Check it out. And the next book I read was Who Let the Gods Out, which is actually a children's book, and I've been reading it to my class in school. I am a primary school teacher, but the holidays have begun now, so I'm on my summer holidays very smugly. But yeah, so Who Let the Gods Out, it's we were doing the topic of the ancient Greeks. And Who Let the Gods Out is set in modern day, but it has Greek mythology everywhere. It's a bit like the Percy Jackson books, but I think I actually prefer Who Let the Gods Out. It's so funny. It had me, I was laughing so much in front of my class.
More than all the kids.
Yeah, so much more than all the kids. It's like when you watch Shrek, as a kid you enjoy it, but as an adult it's really
you enjoy
funny.
it even more.
Exactly. So, and I think it's written brilliantly. The story's excellent, but it really reminds me of Percy Jackson with that someone's at school and they're a young teenager, and then they've got all of this ancient Greek world thrust upon them. I think it was handled really well. Really funny with the relationships between the gods. The boy Iliad, the main character, goes, he's kind of thrust into this world that he has no idea about, and he's discovering everything alongside the reader, which is really, really fun to read about. And it's told from 2 points of view. Another is Virgo, who's actually a constellation. She's on the Zodiac Council, so it does sound quite funny. It's a really funny book. The author has a lot of humour, so I definitely recommend this. If you want to read it to anyone who has any children, year 4 or 5, so if they're 10 or 11, I'd say is a really good age to go and read that. But I would happily read it just on my own. So it was that funny.
Something for everyone then.
Yeah, exactly.
And my next book, continuing with the science fiction genre, I finished the original Red Rising trilogy with Morningstar. Every single time. Morningstar, when I started this, I finished Golden Sun and I thought, how on earth is Pierce Brown going to be able to wrap this up in a satisfying way? I thought it's impossible. There's going to be stuff left out. I'm going to be really disappointed.
Yeah.
I was wrong. He managed to somehow have so much happen while still allowing time for the characters to breathe, and really just result in a satisfying conclusion. I mean, there were parts that I thought were a bit rushed, and that's why probably Golden Sun is my favourite of the trilogy, but still, Morningstar is a 5-star read for me, and I thought it was just a fantastic end to a trilogy that had really built up to something quite epic.
Yeah.
And it really hit all the marks whilst keeping the characters at the heart of the story. And I'm not going to read the next. I forgot. Is it Iron Gold? I think.
Iron Gold, Dark Age or something. Yeah, I think
one of them
was the next one.
I'm not going to read that for a while yet. Probably quite a few months. So I'm going to miss these characters: Severo, Darrow, Mustang, Ragnar. A lot of them fall during this story. Pierce Brown is brutal with his characters. I don't think
he's not afraid to kill.
No author other than
anyone.
Papa Gwynne has killed so many of his characters.
Yeah.
And at any time during the story. So I'm just tense the entire time. And the audible.
Oh, the stakes are high, aren't they?
Their stakes are high. And characters are just going to die left, right, centre.
Yeah.
And you really, even if you've only met them for a page, you really feel for them. And I think that was the main strength of this story. Yeah. And another sci-fi story recently that I've really, really loved. So I think Morningstar is a story for entry-level science fiction readers and the veterans as well. So There we go, Morningstar.
And to continue with my Greek love at the moment, I read the Iliad. I know. It sounds like an easy task. It wasn't. But the Iliad, I really, really enjoyed it. You can see the influence of the Iliad on pretty much every book written since. You know, it's everywhere. With the different characters, the relationships, the tropes, or things that are tropes now that obviously weren't tropes then because people didn't write. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I like how it feels kind of like, you know, Greek propaganda, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the gods,
you can't get much propaganda.
No, and the gods have a really humorous relationship with each other, and I think Homer has a good time of kind of laughing at and with the gods, kind of yeah, I really enjoyed it. I like the mythology behind it all. I like the characters, I like the motivations. It did drag on a bit towards the end, but it was written in 700 BC or something like that. So, but yeah, I guess you can forgive him of that kind of stuff, those devices. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed the Iliad. I'm looking forward to reading the Odyssey soon, hopefully.
I actually prefer the Odyssey.
Do you?
I do.
Just
put that out there.
Just
thought I would.
I'm looking forward to that because I think Ian McKellen has a version recorded of the Odyssey on Audible, so I'm thinking I'm going to listen to that version because Ian McKellen. Need I say any more?
Nope.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. The Iliad, very good, by Homer, really enjoyable. We'd like to talk a bit more about that on the channel, wouldn't we? Some in-depth talks about Homer's stories and Homer's writing.
They've had quite an impact on everything written since, haven't they?
Yeah,
you could say that.
And reading Killer of Men, you've got the references to the Iliad as well. And I've been listening to a book about Alexander the Great as well, and that talks about how he had the Iliad. He would read it at night time and it would inspire him. Achilles would inspire him. So, it's a tale of the ages that people have been able to reflect and, relate to for hundreds and thousands of years now. So it's well worth a read.
Yeah, I think whilst now we may not relate to some of the propaganda and some of the values that are propagated through Homer, but there's still a lot that we do really relate to.
There's lots of human traits and characteristics just everywhere, and you can see how the motivations come into play, and it does feel quite realistic, really, doesn't it? Godlike Achilles and never godlike Hector. Godlike Achilles and
one thing that did irk you was how
everyone was godlike. I get it. Okay, I get it. They're godlike, but come on, you don't say it every 2 words. But no, it was funny.
And so there's the Iliad, something not quite as mega as that, but still something that recently has been quite a phenomenon. I can't say that word, and I'm not even going to try to again.
Phenomenon.
Phenomenal. So the next one is another science fiction read, and another one I listened to on Audible, and this is All Systems Red, the first instalment of the Murderbot Diaries.
Very nice.
Which a lot of people have really loved, and
it's a novella, isn't it?
It is, but there's a series of novellas, and I've only read the first one yet.
Cool.
And I thought it was really great, very funny. So you have a rogue robot, but not in the sense of a usual rogue robot. This isn't going around killing everyone as it's a murder bot, it's capable of inflicting death.
Murder.
But this is one that it feels anxiety. It doesn't want to put its life at risk. It just wants to sit at home and watch soaps.
Really?
Yeah. And how random, but how great. And I thought it was really lovely, the relationship with him, with the humans, because if they find out he's a rogue, then, well, they may attempt to fix him.
Him? Huh? It?
What? He says he's like a him, but then not at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Android, I think he prefers being called.
Very nice.
As a bracket term. But yeah, I thought that this is a really great first novella to the series, and so All Systems Red, another science fiction endeavour.
You could become an alien if you read any more sci-fi.
That is what happens to science fiction readers, I've heard. Maybe that's my plan all along.
Maybe. And the final book I read during the month of July was She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. And this was a lot of fun. It's a historical fantasy in the vein of David Gemmell, it feels a little bit like, with those historical influences. It reads like a historical fiction. It's set in 14th century China during the period when the Mongols were being expelled from China, and it's a really interesting piece of history that I didn't know too much about, to be honest. But I love history. I devour history whenever I can. So this is just another form of taking in that historical influence and learning as well as enjoying. So yeah, I enjoyed this. We're looking forward to doing a proper review, aren't we, very soon on the channel. So that will be out in the month of August. So I won't talk about it much more now, but I definitely, it's a #1 Sunday Times bestseller, so it's that for a reason. So go check it out.
Yeah, definitely do. I think I'll talk about this more in a minute because I also read it in July. But yeah, definitely check it out and talk more about that in a minute. But my next read was, I've forgotten. Yes, The Scarlet Thief, which is the first installment to the Jack Lark series. It's historical fiction, and Ed and I, by Paul Fraser Collard. Just add that in. Why would I leave the author out?
Ed and I by Paul Fraser Collard.
And Ed and I recently, we've been talking a bit about the Crimean War and about 19th century history, haven't we? About Napoleon and also the aftermath and the British Empire.
Yeah.
And about that whole time period. And so, you spotted The Scarlet Thief.
I did.
And I thought, that sounds like a
and
good
I
one
had
to listen
a
to
very
right now.
a very kind person called Matt message me and recommend them to me as well. So a viewer of the channel, and he did recommend them after we'd actually already got them on Audible. Didn't we?
Really?
So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Matt, because I really did enjoy The Scarlet Thief. I think it's a bit of a trope where it begins with someone thinking that war is glory and all about honour, and then they get there and then they find out, oh wait, no, it's not.
Yeah.
But it's a trope that doesn't get old because that's reality, isn't it? I think a lot of people still think that war has that romanticism about it, and I think that whilst there are heroic acts that are shown in The Scarlet Thief, they don't have much impact. And I think there's a famous quote is a lot of the heroic acts of war amount to nothing. Something like that. I've forgotten who said that, but it's quite a famous quote, and I think that quite well summarises this story. Jack Lark, I think he's a great character. He's been really formed really nicely in this first instalment, and I'm really looking forward to carrying on with the series. And I'm not sure, I think that will carry on with the Crimean War, but I think there's 9 books in the series now.
Something like that, yeah. And there's a really nice cover
I know that
come out
Jack Lark
the next
really...
release, yeah.
Oh, need to check that out. I know that Jack Lark, he does travel quite a bit, so I'm not sure where it takes me, but I'm looking forward to carrying on the series on Audible.
I saw that Matthew Harvey said that Paul Fraser Collard writes battles excellently.
Oh,
so what do you think of the combat?
I really thought it was fantastic. You never see in a book, I think we watched a film Hacksaw Ridge, and how they take an area and then they're pushed back and they take it back, and I've never seen that really in a book before.
Right,
see that there's a victory and they don't lose like a day afterwards, do they?
Yeah.
But in this it really shows that as they get a victory, they take this like mile of land, immediately get pushed back, and it's just this to and fro.
That's what war was, wasn't it?
And it shows that basically there is no result or reward. It's about pride of the people who really don't really get involved in the battle. They stand from a distance, and I think it was really brutal. And obviously when you go in to and fro, you see the bodies of those who have died before, and I think that it was really just depicted again, it wasn't really in your face. It was in your face to the right amount. What impacted the character impacted you as a reader, and the action was one of the strong points.
Nice,
for sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, I've finished my list, so
I'll go on. What was my next one? Yes, let me pick that up. And so I also read She Who Became the Sun, which, as Ed said, came out in July. We both immediately jumped on that bandwagon, didn't we?
We did.
And as Ed said, this is set in the 14th century in China, and it is low fantasy in a historical setting with China attempting to overthrow Mongol rule, which is seen as quite barbaric and quite like a tyrant, basically, where they are subdued and seen as less than their rulers. And we have 2 main figures. I wouldn't call them protagonists. 2 main figures, Zhu and Ouyang. I'm probably butchering these names. And then we have a smattering of other perspectives who we have a few chapters with, but they're much more minor characters. And you often see them for the other people's perspectives. I thought one of the strong points, definitely strong points, characters, and I think the interactions, dialogue was really great in this. And I think that the interactions between characters, and again, it's very understated. But that has a really great impact, doesn't it? When something's understated, but then it comes to fruition in the end. It's strange, not strange. I've not really read it before, where the prose takes quite a distant approach to the characters, but as you go through the story and it progresses, it becomes more and more intimate.
It feels like imagine watching a film and the camera starts and right in the corner of the room, and then by the end of it, it's up close and personal.
You're seeing it from their
and you're
perspective.
finally seeing it, in all of its colours and all of its glory.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to see it in all of its glory.
You really don't.
What happens is pretty dark.
Yeah, but I thought that route was very interesting to take on getting to know a character more. And again, we'll be talking about that a lot more in our review, so I won't say too much now. But yeah, She Became the Sun, top-notch read and really deserving of being a bestseller. So also, if you want to see a pitch from the author herself, it is on our July releases video. There we go. Oh. And did I have any more? Yes, my last read of the year.
Oh, Will, don't give up now. Come on, man.
I'm done. I'm retiring. No, my last read of July was A Wizard of Earthsea. Ed and I have often said that we've not read enough traditional fantasy, so I have attempted to rectify that slightly. And so I dived into A Wizard of Earthsea, which I decided to because I heard Philip Chase speak so highly about it. He's got a great channel.
Dr.
Philip Chase.
Doctor.
Yes, he is.
The Doctor.
We'll be doing a video with him soon, so I'm sure
we will be talking about Anglo-Saxon poetry
and Old English.
Excellent. Yeah,
it's
really
going to be awesome. But anyway, I digress.
Mm-hmm.
Back to A Wizard of Earthsea. This, you can see where a lot of the tropes of modern fantasy have stemmed from, but it didn't make it less interesting. This has such a certain charm to it, and it's so inviting that it felt magical. It felt like I was just being immersed into this. It's a dark place, a lot of bad things happen, but it just had that magical, charming and inviting feeling. It's really hard. I want to really sit down and think about how Ursula K. Le Guin really achieved that, but it was just such a lovely feeling when you're reading to be immersed to that extent.
Oh, that's
not in the way that you have Joe Abercrombie, where you're immersed and then
it's not lovely.
And then when you emerge, you're depressed. But with this, there's a lot of dark things happen, and there's a wide variety of characters who are good and bad, and grey and everything in between, as there are in life. And I just thought it was a really great first instalment, and one that I'm really looking forward to, again, to continuing with the series. Theme with the books that I've read this month is I don't really have much bad to say about any of them, really.
No.
All were really enjoyable, no regrets at all. And so, yeah, again, with Wizard of Earthsea, really looking forward to carrying on.
Very nice. So, during the month, we also finished the TV show of The Following, which was really good. I think it's a little bit long, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think about 15 episodes.
Well, last month we talked about we watched the first 6 and they were all amazing.
Oh, fantastic.
And I think for a few more episodes it was, and then it started to get a bit unrealistic, a bit
repetitive.
hyper real,
yeah,
definitely.
Exactly.
I was trying to search the words there. And I think it would have been much better a series of 10 rather than 15.
Yeah, I reckon.
But
so.
it was still great.
The characters are excellent.
James
The serial
Purefoy.
killer of Joe Carroll, who is James Purefoy, one of my favourite actors, is genius, and Kevin Bacon is a great protagonist.
He was really brilliant in it, wasn't he?
Really good. So yeah, really good. I really enjoyed that. And then so we finished that. Then we started to watch True Detective with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, and that's really good so far. We watched what, 2 or 3 episodes?
3, I think. 2.
So
We watched
2 or 3. And that's really good.
Maybe.
You can see that it's very subtle. The storytelling's really nice.
Yeah.
And
that
it's gearing
masterful
up
acting.
to the acting's amazing. It's gearing up to something very intense.
Yeah, I feel very tense. Really.
And then what's going to be next on our list for August? What we're going to be watching? What did we say? I think we said we're going to be watching Killing Eve. I think.
Killing Eve. Yeah, we're going to finish True Detective. We may dive into Rome as well, which also is. James
Me and William
Purefoy
were thinking of doing just a rewatch. Well, you haven't watched it yet, have you? But I'll be rewatching Rome. So let us know if you want us to review that on the channel, because we love Rome. Well, I love Rome anyway. It's brilliant. Probably my favourite HBO show that isn't Band of Brothers. So yeah, amazing.
High praise.
High praise.
So there we go. That is about everything to talk about this month. So we had a lot go on. We've read a lot, had a few interviews, launched the Patreon, and watched quite a bit as well. And you, as you said, played some Total War. So thank you so much for watching this. Hope you enjoyed how we talked our way through this video. Somehow we digress so much with the amount of tangents we go on, but trying to keep it streamlined, trying to keep to the actual subject, but failing every time. But we hope that you enjoy that kind of chat. And so there we are. That is us for today. So truth and courage, the brothers Gwynne.
Truth and courage, stay safe, the brothers Gwynne.